So back in April, there was a group of us from the family ministry team went to Atlanta, Georgia, to an Orange conference. So we're not the only Orange church. Actually, there's Orange churches all over the country, all over the world. And we gathered in Atlanta, Georgia for this conference. Has anybody ever driven in traffic in Atlanta, Georgia? Oh my goodness. So we were doing good. So we were like 2 hours ahead and we were doing so good. And we got to Atlanta and it was like, and let me tell you, I just have some stories I could definitely tell you. I'm not going to tell you right now, but I have some stories that I will never forget the rest of my life when in traffic in Atlanta, Georgia. But the conference was good. It was long. It was intense. So we'd start like at 7:30 in the morning, go till like 10 o'clock at night. It was like drinking from a fire hose. It was a lot of information and several days like that. But they always have a theme. And this year the theme was Here For It. And Jon Acuff, you guys might be familiar with Jon. He's a great author, super funny guy. He did like an 8 to 10 minute talk to open up the conference for us. And I want to just hit a few things that he talked about. So when it comes here for it, I want to kind of take each word apart for a minute. And I want to start with the word here. What does the word here mean? It means to be present. It means to be consistent. It means to be rooted in the moment. And now your child may never say this out loud, but what your child is thinking most of the time is, will you still be here? Will you still be here when I try pushing you away? Will you still be here when I'm not fun? Will you still be here when I'm awkward? When I'm mean to you? Will you still be here? When I was a teenager, which wasn't very long ago, just a couple days ago, I went through a phase, and honestly, it wasn't a good phase. I was very arrogant, conceited, and I really don't know how those closest to me put up with it. To be honest with you, because I tried pushing them away, But I had a few individuals in my life that stayed rooted in the moment, that they stayed here for me. And honestly, I wouldn't be who I am today if it wasn't for those individuals in my life. And you might be thinking of somebody in your life that did the same thing for you. But I want you to change your train of thought for a moment. I want you to think about what child can you be here for this year? What child can you be here for this year? Maybe you have children of your own. It makes sense to be here for them. Maybe you're like Reagan and I, and our kids are adults now. What child can I be here for? Maybe you don't have children. Does anybody remember Dennis the Menace, the show Dennis the Menace? Yeah. You know the kid that does donuts all the way up your gravel road and messes up your gravel road every other week? That kid? Yeah, we have one of those. Maybe that's the kid you could be here for. Who can you be here for this coming school year? I want you to be thinking about a person's name, a kid's name, and we'll come back to that here in a little bit. The next word is for. What does for mean? For means linked arms. For means with you. I'm pulling for you. There's an important distinction here. This says here for it. It doesn't say here to fix it. It doesn't say here to fix it. When you're newly married and your wife has a really bad day at work, she comes home, she's super upset, she's crying, she had a really bad day. You know what she doesn't want you to do? Exactly. She doesn't want you to yell out obvious solutions, right? Fix that one in 5 seconds, you're welcome. No, learn from our mistakes. She wants you to be here in the moment. She wants you to be pulling for her. She wants you to be present in the moment. Here's what we need to know, guys. People are not projects. Your kids are not projects. They want you to be here for it. Here for it. The last word is it. It is messy. It is unpredictable, it is wild, and it can be an adventure. And if I'm honest with you, I don't always want it because I want a guarantee. Not only do I want to know what's next, what the next step is, I want to know all the steps. I'm a little bit of a control freak when it comes to that kind of thing. I want to know that someday my kids are going to meet somebody amazing and get married. I want to know that my kids' friends are going to always invite them, include them. I think we live with something that our kids, a lot of us today, with that we didn't go through what they went through. What I mean by that is, a lot of times they get to watch a highlight reel of things they weren't invited to. They get to watch a movie called I'm Not Popular Enough on Instagram. And a lot of us, we didn't have to deal with that. We don't want our kids to have hurt feelings. But you know what's out of our control? All of it. All of it's out of our control. And that sounds like bad news, doesn't it? It is. It sounds like bad news. But the good news is God cares more than we do about our kids. And that's hard to trust sometimes. It's hard to trust sometimes. What? God cares more about our girls than we do? How's that possible? But it's a truth. Another truth is God is always present and at work in our kids' lives. And we just get to notice and to join in those moments. But he's always working and present in our kids' lives. So, church family, for our next generation this year, what do we need to do? We need to be here for it. Can we all say that together? Here for it. Can we say it a little louder? Here for it. Right? Amen. So what I'd like to do, I'd like some of our family ministry team members to come up. Tracy, Jessica, and Emily. If you guys would come up. And they're going to share a little bit of, in their kind of area of influence, of what it looks like to be here for it. So just come up and grab a stool, grab a mic. Thank you. So, Jessica, you got a tear in your jeans there. Did you know that? You got a tear in your jeans?
That's not get some air.
Oh, okay. So you guys went to the Orange Conference with the group of our family ministry team, and I would like for you just to share with the church family some of just kind of your area of influence, and maybe it's a story, maybe it's a thought, whatever it is that you want to share as far as what it looks like to be here for it. So we're going to start with you, Jessica. Jessica leads part of our student ministry. She's been part of student ministry for a long time. And when it comes to high school students, what does it look like to be here for it? And how long have you been in student ministry?
Oh, okay. Well, is it on?
It doesn't sound like it. Technical difficulty. Yeah, it should be. Yep.
There it is.
Just talk a little louder.
That happened at Shine yesterday, too.
Uh-oh.
So I looked back. I had to look back through notes, and it goes back as far as 2011 or 2012. When
Wow.
I started volunteering with students.
Isn't that amazing? That's awesome.
So my youngest niece and nephew had moved to Jackson, and they were getting ready to enter the middle school phase, and I wanted to see how I could be connected to them and know what was going on in their world. So I thought, I don't have kids, so why not get to know other people's kids? And it was a great way to know how to be there for them in that phase.
That's awesome. That's so good. So high school students, what's it look like to be here for it for high school students?
One of the most profound things that they said at Orange Conference was, if you want to be here for the next generation, don't hurl wisdom at them from a distance, catch their tears up close.
Mm-hmm.
You can't catch tears without a relationship. You have to be in proximity with them, you have to know them. And for a high schooler, let's face it, they can drive. So they're not always here on Sundays. They've got jobs, they've got school, they've got athletic activities. When you look at that and you want to mobilize their faith, and you want them to know they're loved and they're seen. You have to build relationships. And a lot of this generation doesn't have grandparents and great-grandparents like my generation did. So as a church, if you don't have grandparents or grandkids, if you don't have kids in the house, you could go and you could go to those baseball games, those football games, go to an academic activity and just cheer them on once or twice a year. That would be incredible. One of the other things is that you could serve as a small group leader. It's a great opportunity to build those relationships. Or you probably need your grass mowed. If you're like me, you need somebody to help put up hay. You can invite them to do some odd jobs for you. Mobilize them, give them those tools to be able to live out life. And then invite them into your home and share a meal with them. One of the best things you can do is sit down. It's part of the blessed practice. Share a meal, get to know them, so that they have somebody they can connect to even after they go out into the world.
Yeah, that's good. There we go. Dennis the Menace, help us with hay. Remember that. Okay. So that's really good. So that's high school. From high school to middle school, so you take a senior of high school and you take like a 7th grader, there could be a lot of difference there. What does it look like as far as like middle school?
Well, the biggest difference is they can't drive, right? So we don't have to go to them quite as much. Parents are bringing them to us on Wednesdays. We get to see them on Sundays. So we don't have to go to quite as many things outside of a Wednesday. But that relationship is still incredibly important. So give them a fist bump. Give them a high five. Ask them what they're doing in school. Just be present for them and get to know them and connect to them in a Sunday service. One of the biggest things we did this last year in student ministry was we have some incredible families that cooked home-cooked meals for our middle schoolers and high schoolers and our small group leaders. I'm not talking about like they ordered pizzas. Like we had homemade lasagna, salad, spaghetti. Kim made tacos one night. Like they went all out. So every Wednesday night, we get to sit down with a meal, begin with prayer, share community, talk about stories, and get to know each other. And these people who made the meals, they got to serve. So it was just a really great opportunity to put all of that in place and be for the next generation. Yeah,
that's super good. Thank you. This is Emily Lamb. Emily is a mother. She's a teacher in our local school district. She's an amazing part of our family ministry team. And Emily's a champ because she said, I am super nervous when I asked her about this. I am super nervous to talk in front of a bunch of adults. If you guys were all kids, it wouldn't be any problem at all, So here's what we're going to do. For the next 3 or 4 minutes, we're just going to imagine you guys are a bunch of kids, okay? For some of you, it's probably not too big of a stretch, Jeremiah. But so Emily, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then with your mother hat on, what's it look like to be here for it?
Okay, well, I'm Emily Lamb, and my husband Alan and I, we are raising 3 girls. We have an 11-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 5-year-old. And I don't know if you guys have seen the early 2000s sitcom, The Middle. It's about a family, the husband and wife, Frankie and Mike Heck. I don't know if you guys know Frankie. She was off of Everybody Loves Raymond.
Oh, yeah.
They're trying to raise 3 kids, and Frankie is trying to do the best that she can to raise her family. She's overwhelmed, and she's just trying to keep it all together. And my husband calls me Frankie.
Oh, nice, Alan. Good job there, bud.
We have a running debt at the library because we often turn in library books late. If you see my kids, they probably have a stain on their shirt from that day or from a previous wear because they don't pre-wash. I just throw it all in the laundry. I'm just trying to keep it together.
Yes.
But after Orange Conference and several messages that we've gotten, I realized the importance of being here for it. In fact, I have a sticker on my phone. It says, "It's just a phase, so don't miss it." So that's a reminder to me to be present when I hear, "Get out of my room," or "She took my toy," or "She rolled her eyes at me." Instead of picking up my phone and checking out, I can be here for it. I can go give my kiddo a hug that got their feelings hurt, or I can go help with any conflict resolution that needs to be made. So.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so easy to check out and just get on your phone and go to Facebook or Instagram, whatever you go, but to see that reminder, I love that. Emily, one more question for you. As a church family, what do you think it could look like for us to be here for the next generation as a church family?
Greg, you mentioned that I teach, and I teach at the high school. When I first got into teaching, I thought it was about teaching math, period. But as I get a little more into it, I realize it's about building relationships also. And so I try to greet my kiddos at the door with a smile. You know, I don't know much about my kiddos teaching high school. I'm only with them for 50 minutes a day. So I think it's important that I am there for them. I try to let them know that I care about them, that they're welcome in my classroom, that it's a safe place to learn and grow. I can choose for 1 hour a day with them to be that unstoppable source of God's love. And I think our church can do that too, and Go Kids. I think we try to do that. You know, we don't know what our kiddos' morning's like. We don't know if they had a meltdown in the car on the way over, but you know, we can greet them with that smile when they get there. We can try to provide that safe environment for them where they can learn about God and love God. And if you're not in Go Kids, which I get that too, you don't want to
I am not.
then, you know, when we see kiddos in our church, we can give them a smile, or we can give them an encouraging message about their week, like, hey, I hope you have a good week at school. Or we can point them in the direction of the cookies, which you know, are out there. And, you know, maybe you can even enjoy a cookie with them and talk about their week with them. So.
Oh, that's so good. A smile and a cookie, that does a lot for a heart, right? That's for sure. Tracy, you've been leading Go Kids for forever now, and I know this theme, Here For It, really resonates with you. We've talked about it several times since the conference. Is there anything that you could share, like a story or anything you want to share with the church family?
Sure. When Greg came to me with this, I was super excited. I was at camp, and my mind was going crazy about what can I say, and I knew
Is that
I had
working?
to-
Hold on a second.
Now we are.
No.
There we go.
There you go.
All right, here I am now. Can you hear me now?
No. Oh!
There we did. All right, I don't know if you heard the first part,
Yep.
but yeah, when he brought it to me, I was super excited. My mind was going crazy of what can I say, and figured he'd probably have to shut me down. So I'm going to talk about camp since we were at camp when this was brought to my attention. We had a couple little guys that decided Jesus was going to be their forever friend while we were at camp, which is the best camp experience ever, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, that's part of the reason we go. And that was our big Here For It moment. As Don, he's not in here, he's in Go Kids right now, walked out with this little boy our last night there. I have a good relationship with this little boy, so it really touched my heart, and couldn't wait to go outside and be a part of this conversation with him. He got a little distracted when we called Mom and Dad, so we had to push the phone call off to a little later. But to be there in that moment, it's been the best moment of my camp experiences all throughout the years. And later on, this little boy did get to call home to Mom and Dad, because we do want you as parents to be a part of these conversations. These are those Here For It moments, right? We don't want parents to miss that. So we call home, and the whole family gets to be a part of this conversation with this little boy, and Don gets to help lead through that. And here's the best moment for me. I didn't get to be there for that final phone call, but that little boy couldn't wait to call me after he talked to Mom and Dad to tell me that he did it. So I got to celebrate with him over the phone, and it was so exciting to give him a hug the next morning. And I really say that because I want you to know, even though those big moments happen at camp, we're still going to make sure you're there. Everybody's going to know about those moments. Those are big moments.
Yeah.
But it also leads me to parents in general. Yeah, we're here every weekend for Go Kids. Emily already hit on that. We love on your kids every week. But parents, it's not just about these Sundays. It's about all these moments. It's about the everyday moments, the good, the bad, the ugly, all of those moments that Greg mentioned. Your kids want to know you're there for every moment, and it starts young. I know you're there every moment. It may not feel like you're there every moment, but those moments are just as important as those big moments, because when those big moments happen, they know you're going to show up.
Yeah, it's so good. So good. Any other thoughts? You guys have any other thoughts?
I do.
Okay.
Tracy
Of
mentioned-
course.
Tracy mentioned partnering with parents. A child has 8,760 hours in a year. As a parent, you get over 3,000 of those. As a church, they say we get 40, but because everyone's so incredibly busy, it's probably more like 30 in a year. So that's why we say we want to partner with you, we want to help you. And as a church, that's why it's so incredibly important that we're orange. That stack of balloons over there represents the 3,000 hours that you have as a parent. That stack represents the 30 that we get as a church. So without you making meals, without you giving high fives, without you investing in the next generation, none of this would be possible.
Yeah, so true. So good. You guys are awesome. Can we give it up for these ladies? Thank you, guys. Not sure what we would do without our amazing volunteers to make everything happen. As we wrap things up, church, one of the things that I hope every one of us can walk away with today is that this doesn't have to be overly complicated. We just have to be intentional. We just have to be intentional to be here for it. And to be honest with you, one of the best ways that I know to do that is by working on ourselves as parents, as adults. You ask any family that has a 2-year-old of how that 2-year-old reflects what they do. It's not a whole lot different than when they're 18 years old. They're still watching everything you're doing. They're watching when you learn from Jesus. They're watching when you love like Jesus. They're watching when you live as Jesus. So one of the best things we can do is to work on ourselves. And honestly, one of the best ways that I know to do that is by joining one of our groups. Might be sound like I'm selling groups. I am. I am, because I believe that our Get Real group can be one of the biggest transformation in your life, and therefore in your child's life, because they're watching you, they're imitating you. So if you've been thinking about getting part of one, all of our groups are wonderful, but in particular our Get Real group is just really foundational. And we have sign-ups, I think, for another week and a half, 2 weeks, to sign up for our groups. If you don't know how to sign up, see one of us. Find somebody before you leave, and we'll be glad to talk to you about it and talk through that and just to figure out the next step when it comes to the Get Real group. One more step I think we can do to be intentional. If you've been thinking about getting baptized, baptism can be a great next step for you. I can't imagine a better way, a better example for your kids than you going public with your faith and saying that I love Jesus. And if you, next weekend, it's barbecue and baptism. So if you want to get baptized or you have questions about baptism, man, don't put it off. See one of us again right after this gathering. We would love to talk to you about baptism. So I hope you have that child's name in your brain of who you're going to be here for this year. Has everybody thought of somebody you're going to be here for this year? If not, you have a few more minutes to be thinking about it. Jeremiah, come on up. Jeremiah is going to lead us in a time of reflection and prayer, and then he's going to close us out as well. So would you lead us, Jay?
If you can take me seriously, just for a couple minutes, that would be good. My heart bleeds orange, and just hearing all of what we've heard up here is just makes me proud to be a part of this church family and to get to give back and to serve the next generation. And Greg had mentioned earlier, who are you going to be here for? And maybe you don't have a name. Maybe it is a group. Maybe it's people around here. I don't know what that might look like. There is a card in the back of your seat, a brown card with a name on it. That's one name you can be here for. One thing I'd encourage you to do is take that name out of here and be praying for them. That's one thing you can do. But I want to go back to the more specific, who are you going to be here for? And I want to give you a little time to brainstorm. You probably already have in your mind of who you can be here for. But I want to go to another thing of how can you be here for it? What is that going to look like? When Greg's talking about intentionality, I think it's one thing to just say, yep, I'm going to be here for it. It's another thing to start naming some ways that you're going to be here for it. So you can name what we would call a do. This is something I'm going to do in order to actually surrender to this idea. I'm going to surrender to God's love. I'm going to be here for it, and this is how I'm going to do it. So they had mentioned some ideas, going to a ball game, prayer, making meals, giving high fives. As I was thinking a little bit for me, how I'm going to be here for it, there were two words that really came to mind for me, awareness and presence. And a consistent way for me is to be aware of the students and kids around me. That I'm going to do my best to constantly have a constant awareness of who's around me, where they're at, try to see them. And my presence is actually be present to them. So when I'm engaging with the student, it's really hard for me to be in a moment. A lot of times I'm thinking about the next moment, what I got to do after this, where I'm going, what's happening next. And I'm going to work on being present. So for me, I'm just going to write down awareness and presence on this card. And maybe you have a lot of ways that you can be aware, that you can be here for it. But over the next few moments, just going to give you a little time to pray about that, to take a little time to write something on that card, and then we're going to have you leave those in a certain place before we go out of here. So I'm going to pray, and then I'm just going to give you guys a little time to think about who it is that you're going to be here for, and to write something on that card of this is how I'm going to be there for them. This is something I'm going to do. Let me pray, and I'm just going to give you guys a little bit of time to reflect and write. Let's pray. Father, thank you for this morning. Thank you for a church family that will dress up in orange, that will get out of their box, do some fun things, all in the name of the next generation, our family ministry. And God, I know that each person that's here is here. They're with us, here for it. As we process and take some time, help us to imagine what that might look like to actually be here for it, all the messy, all the unknown. We want to be here for it, Lord. We ask this in your name.